Home, Chapter 67. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. If you haven't checked out the previous 66 chapters of the story, you can find them in the description box below. Now then, don't forget to, as usual, give the thumbs up button a click so Plag gets his cheese so we don't have a grumpy Kwame on our hands today, and leave a comment in the comment section to show your support. If you don't know what to comment, put continuing a relationship. Now then, please enjoy Home, Chapter 67, and don't forget to subscribe. Marinette Dupang Chang. 2 weeks passed since Marinette found out Bunnix orchestrated her partner back into her life, and it was a slowly deteriorating whirlwind ever since. To her unspoken relief, Kat took Nino up on his offer and moved in, an unlikely roommate duo. Sure, it might not be strange for Adrienne and Nino to move in together, but as far as she could tell, Nino didn't know his identity, and Kat kept the mask on when he was there, and Nino respected his privacy, not intruding into his room until after he had the chance to transform every time they interacted. Another gust on her unbalanced 2 weeks was Adrienne's interactions with Natalie. She'd never seen her tear up the way she did when she saw him, pulling him into an embrace fit for a Hollywood movie. While Natalie still helped her and Chloe out, she reworked her drive into getting Adrienne back on his feet, from the abandoned manor to setting him up with a therapist. Paris also held a homecoming for him. He still didn't go out as Adrienne, but the streets welcomed Cat Noir, praising his return while young parents took photos of their 4-year-olds with him, explaining how they'd met their mother during an Akuma fight or how he'd saved their spouse in some bizarre event. The past 2 weeks and the whirlwind it created were something to celebrate, but Marinette hadn't adapted yet. Marinette hadn't adapted to her ex and beloved partner, continuing a relationship with her instead of fading into a background character. While Cat Noir hadn't opened up about why he was uncomfortable without the mask yet, besides a comment about the man in the mirror looking like his father, he'd come to her for help with it. Rather, he kept coming back for help, and Marinette wasn't sure how much more of it her heart could take. A rap at the door meant he was here, and Marinette, false lashes already dried on and blush applied, took a breath to compose herself before opening the door. "Cat," she said, opening the door to see him standing there, sheepish, with a bag behind him. "What's that?" she asked, peeking around him. "Hello." He returned her greeting and swung the bag in front of him. "They're, from your father." "From Dad?" "Yeah." Marinette smiled to herself. He'd been spending more time at the bakery. While she hadn't thought Adrienne might take over the company his father abandoned, was torn from, he didn't. Instead he, unexpectedly, started working at her parents' bakery. Unofficially, of course. She wasn't sure if it was an accident, a coincidence, or her father's whims, but she was sure Cat hadn't sought out the opportunity himself. "So, has he made you his apprentice yet?" "Someone has to keep the mice at bay." "Nice dodge." "Well, I'm never not nervous when I come here, all things considering." That almost hurt her heart. Almost. You can't feel pain after you're numb, after all. "You ready?" She took the bag and set it on the table. Cat took a deep breath, then stepped inside. "Yeah." Marinette tried not to let her eyes linger as Cat detransformed, Plag twirling out and heading straight for the cheese drawer in her little fridge. "Okay." she said, reaching up as he kept his eyes shut. Marinette slid her hands across his cheekbones and cupped his face, her fingers splitting apart around his ears as she held his jawline. They stood like that, him with his eyes closed and her with her fingers on the soft skin around his eyes and behind his ears, for a few minutes. The hum of the radiator and the traffic outside their usual soundtrack. It might be awkward, but it was also peaceful, somewhat. Maybe today he'd even be able to open his eyes. While he'd been able to be Adrien in front of her before, he couldn't bear it every day. They started doing this so he could be comfortable being seen without a mask on, as Adrien aggressed. But he hadn't opened his eyes for her yet, and that was the next big step in his therapy. So naturally, when his eyelids cracked open and Marinette saw green, it was only natural for her breath to catch as they stood in the filtered sunlight together, his hands on her shoulders for support. Oh, sugar and cookies. Should she look away? Or should she keep looking him in the eyes? Oh, no. If she held his gaze much longer, she might... It's a bit warm in here, don't you think? Adrien said, pulling away and turning his back to her. He took off his leather jacket, draping it on the chair. Well, at least she wasn't the only one flushed. She could see the back of his neck turn crimson. Yeah. Silence passed as he kept his back to her. Finally, after a sigh, he mumbled something she couldn't discern, and Plag was sucked into a transformation. She could see the disappointment on his face. "You're getting there," she chimed in. "Don't be so hard on yourself. That's the first time you've made it this far since moving back here." "It shouldn't be this hard," he sighed. "I should be able to be myself without a mask in front of other people without having a panic attack." "It's trauma. The only way out is through, and Nino and I won't give up on you, okay?" He gave her a wry smile. "Thanks, Marinette. Stay for tea?" He hesitated. "No, I'm gonna go... I don't know." "Well, be safe. Same time tomorrow?" "Sure." "Great." She walked over and wrapped her arms around him. She hadn't done this yet, but he looked like he needed it. "See you tomorrow." She felt his arms raise and hesitate, knowing he had a debate going on inside his head. She slipped her hands back, reaching up and bopping him on the nose. "Thanks, Marinette." He leaned forward and rested his head on her shoulder. "See you tomorrow." It wasn't until after he left that she realized he'd left his jacket behind. Whoops. Well, he'd be back tomorrow, so no worries. Unless, did he leave his phone inside? Or his wallet? Would it be wrong to check? Arg, don't overthink it, Marinette. This is Kat. She walked over, picked it up, and reached inside. To her surprise, it wasn't a phone, a wallet, or even keys inside. It was a handkerchief. Inside Cat Noir's jacket was a handkerchief that took Marinette's breath away. Oh. This might change everything about the last 5 years. Thank you so much for listening. Chapter 68 is on the way. In the meantime, you can check out these other videos for more fan fiction. I will catch you in the next one. Bye!